On Tuesday, November 8th, 2016, there will be a presidential election in the United States. This video will explain what the main political parties are and their vision for America's future by comparing some of their policies. The US has two main political parties, the Republican Party, which is more right-wing, and the Democratic Party, which is more left-wing. But this tells you little. Let's get more specific, beginning with taxes. The Democrats want to make sure that corporations can't get out of paying taxes by, among other things, implementing an exit tax to discourage companies from moving their headquarters overseas. They have kept open the idea of lowering the corporate tax slightly, possibly as a bargaining chip for these reforms. For personal income over $5 million, they propose an additional 4% tax. The Republicans call for a deep cut in the corporate tax rate from 35% to 15%, and a personal income tax cut for the very rich down to 25%. They have also announced a moderate income tax cut for the middle class. The Democratic tax plan would increase government revenue by $1.1 trillion in the next 10 years, while the Republican tax plan would decrease revenue by $10 to $12 trillion in the next 10 years. All things equal, these deep Republican tax cuts would drastically increase the national debt. On healthcare, the Democrats want to keep the Affordable Care Act, which now helps insure more than 16 million people. The Republicans want to repeal it. Furthermore, the Democrats want to create a public option, a government-run insurance available to anyone that would compete with private insurance. And they want to allow people 55 years or older to buy into Medicare, the current government insurance program available to people over 65. The Republicans, after repealing the Affordable Care Act, would fund Medicaid through block grants, which would mean fewer dollars for many states, but more freedom to do what they want with the money. To reduce insurance prices, they plan to reduce barriers for interstate sale of health insurance. Immigration. There are about 11 million undocumented immigrants currently living in the US. The Democrats support immigration reform that would allow these people to get documented, and for those who meet certain criteria, a pathway to citizenship. In the meantime, they support Obama's executive actions to stop the deportation of people who were brought here as children, and to stop the deportation of parents of US citizens. The Republicans want to build a wall between the US and Mexico and create a deportation force to deport all 11 million undocumented immigrants. They have also proposed a ban on Muslims entering the US. On the minimum wage, the Democrats want to increase the minimum wage to $15 an hour, while the Republicans reject the federal minimum wage, instead advocating that the wage laws be left up to the state. On energy and the environment, Democrats believe climate change is a real and urgent threat and pledge to have 50% of the country's energy come from renewable sources by 2030. They also applaud international agreements that combat climate change, like the Paris Agreement. Republicans want to focus on oil drilling for energy independence and believe climate change is not an immediate threat. They reject international agreements to combat climate change and want to forbid the Environmental Protection Agency from regulating greenhouse gases. On education, Democrats want universal access to early childhood education, like pre-K programs funded in part by the Department of Education. And on higher education, they advocate for free 2-year community colleges, and by 2021, any families with income up to $125,000 will pay no tuition at any in-state 4-year public colleges or universities. Republicans call for cutting the Department of Education way down, to leave the education policy and funding up to the states. On LGBT rights, Democrats praise the Supreme Court ruling that legalized same-sex marriage, while Republicans condemn the ruling. Democrats support federal protection for LGBT people in housing, employment, and public accommodations, while Republicans want to legalize the denial of service to LGBT people for religious purposes. Furthermore, they propose a constitutional amendment to reverse the Supreme Court ruling on same-sex marriage. And now that you have some information, go vote. And if you're not registered to vote, go to vote.usa.gov to register.